Good morning and welcome to Free Advice Friday. My name is Keri Barnum for New Shelves Books. We are here for Free Advice Friday, where we talk about publishing, marketing, and the business of being an author every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. Thank you for joining me. If you're live, where you can ask live questions, or if you're watching on YouTube, which you can do simply at youtube.com/New Shelves Books. Today, we are taking live questions, and we've got a couple from our email that have been coming in. We have some industry things that have been happening, lots going on in the industry with AI and just changes. So we're going over that as well as taking your questions live. So we'll jump right in with something that's been talked about quite a lot, and that is new changes to Amazon's categories. This has been cropping up in the news quite a bit. Dave Chesson's been talking about it. And then a lot of people have been sharing Dave's videos and his information about Amazon categories. So we know that Amazon changed their category system a couple months ago, where you could no longer put in 10 categories. That used to be the thing, where you could submit your 2 in the KDP setup, but then you would research the 10 top categories you really wanted to be in, and you would message KDP and get put into those categories that were more niche, that gave you a chance to stand out, to make bestseller. But that changed a couple of months ago, where they said, nope, no longer. We're not going to take personalized requests. We're going to instead put all of the categories right into the KDP dashboard. You can find them yourselves. You can do the work, but you can only have 3 categories. You cannot have 10. In addition to that, they stopped allowing people to put a print book in a Kindle category or a Kindle book in a print category, which was throwing off the bestseller list and numbers. So that happened a couple months ago, and there are some good things, some bad things, as all new changes bring. Usually we see some things that work really well right away and some things that need ironing out. So we saw that happening. But then Dave has just come out saying, hey, did you know that 54% of the categories on Amazon are actually duplicates? They lead to the same place on Amazon. So you could be researching and thinking, man, I'm getting myself in some really niche categories, but they end up going to the same bestseller page. And so that is something that Dave, because Dave works, of course, with Publisher Rocket, is his publisher tool. So because of that, he's doing deep research into Amazon and Amazon categories. So 54% of categories are duplicate categories. And now, as I understand it, and as Dave has shared on his YouTube videos, which I highly recommend if you go to the Kindlepreneur YouTube, he's got a lot of videos on Amazon categories, keywords, the whole bit. Anyway, the way that he explains it and the way that I understand it is that they are duplicate categories. However, it can allow you to get into more subcategories by doing that duplicate. So if it's a really strong fit for your book, it's okay if it's a duplicate, but you should still know it's a duplicate, because you may actually get more presence there. You may get better exposure, more subcategories that Amazon automatically puts you into, but it's out there. The other thing that Dave's been sharing, and this is the one that's been getting a lot of attention, is this thing that Dave is calling ghost categories. Now, ghost categories is something that Dave just made up, but it's caught on because it's catchy and we like it. So ghost categories is essentially categories that you can put your book into, but you cannot rank in. If you go to Amazon and you try to go to this category, it's not there. You get shunted into a general bestseller category rather than your specific category. And because of that, you cannot rank. You cannot be a bestseller in that category, which is kind of the purpose of really researching your category. So you can rank well in that category and catch the algorithms, but also because everyone, secretly or not, wants that little orange banner saying #1 bestseller in whatever category you're in. So some of these categories, 27%, so just over a quarter, Dave is saying they're ghost categories, meaning they don't really do you any good. Now, what you can do, from what I'm learning, is you can take that ghost category. Let's say it's, I'm making this up. I don't know if this is category, but let's say it's French alphabet books. So if you put your book in French alphabet books, and that's a ghost category, you can't rank in it. Well, that's a subcategory of a bigger category, and the bigger category might just be alphabet books. So what I'm learning is that rather than doing that ghost category, which is a subcategory, more niche down, you want to go to the bigger category, which would just be alphabet books, and put your book in there so that you can rank. And sometimes they'll add different rankings and different categories and niche categories to your book, but this will actually give your book the chance to actually rank, to actually catch algorithms and do good things. Now, the question I'm getting the most is like, okay, it's confusing. This is really confusing and I don't know what to do. And Danielle's kind of saying the same thing. It's crazy. So how do we find these ghost categories in a really, really easy way? And that's the question that we keep running into is like, okay, I get it. There's these ghost categories. How do I know if I'm in them? And how do I avoid them? So the easiest way is if you're in your KDP dashboard, when you're picking your categories, you're picking these categories, and when you're picking them, it hyperlinks the bestseller list for you. So if you go into there and you click on it and it goes to something that just says like something generic, like bestseller list, it is a ghost category. And that is what we're really looking at. So I'm going to get my screen ready and I will screen share and show you. Now you can also do this on your live sales page. So I'll also show you both ways, how you know when you're setting up, but also how you know when your book is already live if your book is in ghost categories. So I'm sharing my screen. Hopefully it's going to start sharing. There we go. All right, so this is in the setup of a print book, and this is in the category section. You can see we've chosen 3 categories. How you know if they're a ghost or not. See this where it's hyperlinked and it's got an arrow? If you click on it, it will take you to a bestseller list. And you see that this one says suspense thrillers. That means this is not a ghost, because what I have chosen here, suspense and thrillers, is showing up here. That's not a ghost category. Let's check the next one, post-apocalyptic. Okay, matches. This is not a ghost category. And let's try dystopian. All right, not a ghost category. If it were a ghost category, you guys, it would just show up and it would look like this. It would come to just a bestsellers list. In some cases, it seems that some of these are literally actually named like no name or not categorized, like they are still in progress. So will these ghosts eventually come back is kind of my question, is as they are going through and updating things, will these categories and subcategories come back? Because some of them seem like they're still there. They're just not named. They're not like online, I guess. So I don't know that answer, but I know that right now there are ghost categories and we want to make sure that we're not hitting them. So for this book, we didn't have that problem, but you might be seeing that. Let's see. I will search another book and I will show you how to check your categories to know if your categories are ghost categories. So I'm going to take Shira as my example. Thank you for volunteering, being voluntold as we call it. All right, so we got Shira's book here, and she is in medical thrillers, ghost suspense, and ghost mystery. So if we want to know if her ghost suspense is a ghost category, we're going to click on it. Okay, you can see here, it says ghost suspense. It's also here in the dropdown. We can actually find this in the dropdown, not a ghost category. So that's good. Let's go to the next one. Now, and it may seem crazy that so far we've tried 4 categories and none of them have been ghost categories yet, with 27% of them being there, but I promise you they're out there. So these still a good one. And then I'm going to stick my neck out there and say that the main category is probably not a ghost either, but medical thrillers, I can't imagine being a ghost category, but we'll put it out there just in case. And this one is good. So we can see that this is something that I don't want it to kind of give you guys anxiety that, oh my gosh, all my categories are ghosts or they're duplicates or there's something crazy. A lot of them aren't. However, you can research this, and the people who probably do have ghost categories are going to be the categories that most likely have been super niched down. If you purposely a couple months ago even researched categories and you tried to find the most niche categories you could, or it's a category that maybe is not as popular, that's where you might run into ghost categories. If you have gone for overall more broad categories, probably not going to be an issue. Yeah, you just stumble on the ghost on other ranking lists. Yeah, so sometimes you just, it just kind of shows up. Sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's not. But this is a good way to kind of check yourself. If you have Publisher Rocket, if you have the Kindlepreneur, Dave Chesson's tool, Publishers Rocket, they have now built it in where you can search your categories and they'll tag it if it's a ghost or not. So there is this tool, you guys, it is a paid tool. You guys know I use Kindlepreneur and I use the Publisher Rocket. So I do recommend it. You can go directly to Dave Chesson's site. I will also throw a link, and it is I always tell you guys this, it is a affiliate link that I have with Dave Chesson. So know that. But I highly, highly recommend this tool just because not only is it good for now finding these categories and knowing if they're ghost or duplicate and all that kind of stuff, but it's good for keywords. And then the other thing that Dave is talking about that is kind of crazy and cool at the same time is that Amazon very much is talking about how it's all about the user experience, right? They want the user experience to be positive. That has been one of their kind of creeds from the beginning. And that's why we use them, because it's easy to use. And so that is out there. And what Amazon has essentially said overall is, by the way, no matter what category we choose, if Amazon feels like the category you have chosen is not reflective of the book or the best user experience, then in that case, they're going to change your category. They don't need to give you notice. They don't need permission. They're just going to change your category because they reserve that right. So if they feel like you're trying to game the system or something like that, they're going to change the category. And that's been, that's been the case for a while now. And the way that they're choosing those categories, according to Dave Chesson, the way that they're choosing those categories, or what's influencing how Amazon may change your categories, is based on your 7 metadata keywords. So when you're setting up a book in KDP, the keywords that you put in, they're saying is influencing what category you go in. So if you have a bunch of categories that say vampire romance, vampire story, vampire, whatever it is, then chances are they're going to end up putting you in a vampire category, whether or not you chose that, because your keywords are telling them that's where your book belongs. So I think that's something to pay attention to as well, is that those keywords not only matter for how people are searching and finding your book, but they're influencing your categories. So these are the things that are coming in. Let's see, question. Am I understanding you correctly that Amazon has likely gone in and automatically changed categories on existing titles? I see that 2 of 3 categories are the same on a couple of my novels. So yes, they may have. I'm not saying they have for everyone. I'm not saying they're doing it for everyone. But if you're noticing that the categories on your books are different than what you previously chose, or you had 10 categories on your book and it's moved to 3 and you haven't updated your categories, Amazon may have gone in and done this for you. That is correct. And there's really no way to know, because Amazon doesn't notify you. They just change it. They just put you in a different category. So that's something you'd have to go and check your books to know if that's true or not. Let's see, Cheryl, I'm ranking in 2 categories that say Kindle store. Is that something I would have selected specifically for Kindle, and maybe something I should try to change? So this is one of those changes that I talked about, where it used to be that you could slide your print book into a Kindle category. That's no longer the case. When you choose your categories on KDP, when you're setting the book up, it will not allow you to choose a Kindle category for a print book. Now, if your book was previously one of those that was your print book was in a Kindle category, if you didn't update it for right now, it's staying in those categories. However, you can no longer do that. You can no longer purposely put your print book in a Kindle category. Now, that's not to say it never happens that Amazon's automatic changes and things don't put it in the wrong format, but it's not supposed to. That's kind of the way of it. And yes, your Kindle book should be in Kindle categories. Your print book should be in just book categories. So they actually look different. One starts off Kindle, one starts off books. Yeah, the ebook and the print categories are now definitely very separated. There were a lot of lines crossing before, not so much anymore. And how do you put your book in a new category? Well, if you are the publisher and you have your own KDP account, you go into KDP and you would edit your title. And when you edit your title and you go through that process, it is on the, what page is that? Edit title details. When you go to your title, you edit your book, you edit title details, and towards the bottom is where those categories are, and you can choose new categories like I was just showing you. So edit categories on your edit content page. So that's how you do that. Let's see. Just read this over here. If Amazon changes categories for traditionally published books too, that must be what happened to some of mine. If so, they don't do a good job of it. My book is set in Ireland during the famine in the 1840s, got changed to World War II fiction and African-American fiction, not even close to either one. So that may be the case. However, again, depending on the size of the publisher, what a lot of people don't realize is even if you have a traditional publisher, if you're traditionally published, a lot of small and indie publishers do upload direct to KDP. So they are uploading and distributing direct from KDP as well as Ingram Spark or other outlets. So it may be the case of that. But yes, Amazon can change the category of any product. It is within their means to do that, whether it be a traditionally published or a indie published KDP or from a different distributor or account. They have the right to do that. Excuse me. Amazon categories come from your setup in KDP initially, yes, and then they're driven by algorithms, by buying habits, and by Amazon's choice to change them or not. But they do originate in KDP. Yeah, so as far as if books are coming in or out or available or not, probably not related, but we've talked about this. Amazon's been making so many changes lately, you guys. And again, a lot of it's meant to update. It's meant to do good things. We talked about this last week about how it's changing things with AI, and now you have to note if you have AI content in your books and all that kind of stuff. So they're making a ton of changes, as Amazon does. They're constantly updating, making changes. And the thing is that when that happens, sometimes glitches happen, things go wrong. I've been hearing someone was actually saying that their Kindle book was listed with less pages. Now, this was not just a book, it was Kindle box sets specifically, but they're saying their Kindle box sets that they had listed on Kindle with Kindle Unlimited, where you get paid by the page read, that the pages were set incorrectly, that instead of like 600 pages for this box set of 3 books, it was listing the Kindle book as like 200 pages. So when someone was reading through Kindle Unlimited, they were only getting paid for 200 pages instead of 600 something pages. These are glitches and they happen sometimes, but I think because there are so many updates and changes happening right now, we're just seeing more of them right now. So do be vigilant. Go look at your listings, check your categories, make sure your book is in stock and it hasn't been sidelined for something. Make sure that you're checking your Kindle Unlimited page counts if your books are in Kindle Unlimited. It's something you should be doing anyway. Sometimes, again, glitches happen. I've seen descriptions completely disappear. I've seen all sorts of things happen. So I do think you should be looking at your Kindle listings and all of your book listings, but especially Amazon listings. I think you should be taking a look at them at least quarterly, at least every 3 months. And if you use Amazon exclusively, it's still the same thing. This only affects Amazon. So this is not going to affect your listings on Barnes and Noble, on Ingram, or anything like that. This is Amazon exclusive. Are all these new changes updated and listed in the Kindle rules? Yes, so all of them are in one of the Kindle help topics. They are in like the Kindle rules and all of that. They are updated there. They have been sending a lot of emails out, and they do update the KDP website. But again, like they send out this email with like 5 different things, and they're like, hey, by the way, you have to do this. And so they're all listed, but whether or not we're paying attention when it's listed or understanding, like they say, okay, categories have changed. We're like, great, categories have changed. But unless you're digging deep, unless you know the industry, unless you're in accounts looking at this, it would be pretty impossible to know exactly how those changes have affected the everyday author. Again, this is why I'm so passionate about sharing the things that I learned, because I have the privilege of being in so many authors' accounts and seeing so many books from both the front and the back end. So I'm able to see some of these changes and see what it means for the everyday author. This is why Dave Chesson does it, because he's doing the updates for Publisher Rocket. And because of that, he has this knowledge and information. And it allows him to make his tool better, which also makes his tool more valuable. So he does it for that as well, of course. But that's why, because the average author would never, how would you know about ghost categories unless you stumbled upon it? You wouldn't. It's the people who are in it who are researching. And that's why we continue to share and to let people know about these things, because knowledge is power, and it's something like knowledge is free. We can share it. It's not going to hurt me to share my knowledge with you. It's not going to take me out of a job. So I think that's why it's so important to share about it. Let's see. Yep, it's really important. All right, do pre-orders. Now, going away from categories, of course, I'll still answer questions if you guys have it, but moving away from categories a little bit, we have a couple more questions. Do pre-orders get counted towards Amazon bestseller lists? So pre-orders do count for Amazon bestseller lists. However, on the ebook specifically, the way that those count for pre-orders, because that's the only way you can do a KDP pre-order, is they count by the day. So they do kind of count. You can get on bestseller lists while in pre-order, but they don't all. This one's kind of confusing. Pre-orders on Kindle add up, and you don't see them in your account. You can see them in the pre-orders tab, but they don't show as like a sale until the day the book launches. And then when the book launches, all of those sales show up in, they then show up all of a sudden in your sales tab. However, as far as the bestseller list, those calculate as they're being bought. Now for print books, because print books are a little different, they're coming from Ingram Spark. If you're doing a pre-order, those count a little bit differently, but still kind of the same thing. They count in the pre-order stage more than they do on launch day. Now, if we're talking about bestseller list for USA Today, New York Times, that kind of stuff, pre-orders all count on the day the book launches. So it just depends on what you specifically mean for pre-orders and what list you're talking about. But Amazon list specifically, you would have to have a whole heck of a lot of pre-orders for it really to matter for those bestseller lists. See, do you know of a promotion option without decreasing your book price? Most ebook promotions really depend on discounted ebook prices. That's how they drive the consumer to be interested. So most of your ebook options are going to be with a discounted price. Now, can you market otherwise? Can you run ads? Can you take out a advertising thing in a website or a blog or something like that? Absolutely, you can without discounting your price. However, most promotions require an ebook discount. One that I've seen that doesn't necessarily work on sales specifically for this one, but one that doesn't is Written Word now has like a I forget what they're calling it, something surge. Essentially, it's an email builder. So they run a giveaway where multiple people can put a book in a specific genre into this email or into this giveaway. And Written Word Media then runs this big giveaway where they have people click to enter to this giveaway, and then you get the email of those people who enter into that giveaway. And then what Written Word does is they handle actually emailing or selling the book. They gift the book out to the winner. So you don't have to have a discount for that. It doesn't necessarily increase your sales. I mean, it gives you exposure, but the real point of it is building up your email list. And I do have someone who recently did one of those. They said it went well. I don't know what the cost is. We'd have to look at that. And it does depend on the genre, but I believe they said they ended up with like 85 new email addresses for that. So depending on the price, I think it would just depend if it was worth it for you or not. It's called Subscriber Surge. I will drop the link, but it's just at writtenwordmedia.com. So this is a newer thing that they're doing. There we go. So this is a newer thing they're doing. It's meant to increase your subscriber count. You don't have to discount your book. And it's new. So I only have one person I know that's done it. And they had, you know, again, 85 people I think were added to their email list. So that's not nothing. I think BookFunnel is more control for you to do a BookFunnel giveaway of your book or other books. I think it's more control for you. And I think that it's more focused on you and your books and growing your own list. I still like BookFunnel for that, but I will say that the Written Word Media option allows them to do it all for you. You don't have to work at it. You don't have to remember it or take care of it. So that might be an option for you. The other thing that is an option actually is to do on BookFunnel. BookFunnel has an option of, we talk about newsletters, swaps or newsletter growing, where you're giving away a free story and people have to join your mailing list in order to get that free story, and doing group promos. And we talk about those a lot. There's another type of group promo where it's actually a sales page, where you set up a sales page on BookFunnel, where it's kind of like a link tree where it links out to your book and can sell your book. And it can link to Amazon. It can link to, you know, Kobo or Apple, you know, it specifies which one. And that is an option that you can do for a sale, where it's the same idea of a group promo, where multiple books in the same genre are being put into this promo. And then all of the authors are going to then share this one sales page link and kind of advertise for each other. And the idea is that hopefully you share some readers and you get people to buy your book. You don't have to discount your ebook for that. It can be full price. Just know that your conversions may be lower. I actually have someone who just recently did this. Richard is on the call, and we haven't been able to look at the data quite yet. Sales are up from August, but we know August sales were terrible for just about everyone. So we haven't been able to really dig into the data yet, but they do them regularly. And a lot of people do these sales swaps on BookFunnel. So I'm going to assume that they work for some people, or else people wouldn't keep doing them. I would hope not anyway. So that's an option as well, where you don't have to decrease your price, but you do need BookFunnel for that. Let's see. Yeah, fantastic. All right. Unrelated question. That's fine. We're skipping all over. All right. What is the etiquette with tagging on social media? Is it considered thirsty or a social lift if I tag places where my novel is set, people whose research I have read and written about on my blog post, etc.? So here is my rule of thumb. And a lot of people have opinions about this on who to tag, who not to tag. The thing is most social media accounts and platforms allow the user the option of not allowing tags. So if I don't want to be tagged in your stuff, then I can just say, I'm not going to allow tags, period. Me personally, I have tags are allowed, but if someone tags me, it doesn't show up on my own personal feed or profile. It doesn't tag on my account, they can tag me so anyone that they're naturally reaching can see my name and can click on it. But I have to approve anything that shows up on my feed so my followers see it. And so there are options that anyone who is kind of in the public eye or something like that, most of us have that set up so that we're not tagged in. It only took being tagged in some terrible video that was spam one time for me to set that up. And most people, I would say, have that in place. So just keep that in mind, is that a lot of people are protecting themselves if they don't want to be tagged. Aside from that, my rule of thumb is tag someone if it directly affects them. If I'm going to say, you know, I just read tag whoever's name's book and thought it was fabulous, highly recommended, okay, I'll tag them for that because it's directly speaking to and about them, and I'm recommending them. I'm saying nice things. If you are saying, I have just done, you know, I've just finished my book and I just want to put a thanks out there to tag this person's name for all of their incredible research that I used in my book. Again, you're giving them a shout out. It makes direct sense. Now, if you were just saying, hey, my book is live, go buy it, and you're tagging everyone that you know, not cool. No one likes that, I promise you. But if it is directly either talking about them or it's thanking them or something like that, absolutely. If you're using a quote from someone, if I, you know, say, you know, Shira, thanks so much for the kind praise, and I do a graphic with something Shira said and I tag her, okay, that makes sense. But don't just tag people willy-nilly. Don't tag them as spam. And that's kind of the idea, is be very honest with yourself. What's spam and what's not. If you're featuring someone's book, tag them. If you're thanking them or featuring something they said, tag them. If you're sharing a New Shelves article, absolutely tag us. We love it because that makes sense for us. So I think that's kind of my rule of thumb. What we don't like is when people just tag constantly for everything. You know, my book is on sale and you tag me. Great. I'm very happy for you, but I don't need to be tagged. It's, you know, if it's not something I'm not directly involved in. So I think that kind of is my rule of thumb. And for blog posts and things, I think absolutely, because blog post tags more SEO, they're more Google search than anything. It's not so much like being tagged on someone's social media feed. So it's a little bit different. And again, if you're tagging someone, thanking them or recognizing them, they are more likely to see it and interact and respond. So that's always, you know, appreciated. Let's see what I got here. All right. Yep. So, and then a question came up kind of about keywords. So if you have a really great keyword comp that you've been using in ads, so we were talking about how the metadata keywords really affect categories. And so we want to be careful about what keywords we're using in our metadata, the 7 keywords we're allowed, or keyword phrases, when setting up our book, because we want to make sure that it's helping our categories and our sales. But even if you have a keyword that may be working really well for ads, like a comp author or title, you have to keep those to your ads. We cannot use comp authors or titles in our metadata keywords. It will actually get your book. They'll either throw it out or they will send it back, or they will ghost your book and not allow it to be shown. So you cannot use comp titles or authors in your keywords. You also cannot use their series titles or anything like that in your metadata keywords in your setup. Definitely, absolutely use them in the Amazon ads because that's really important. Let's see. We have a question, and of course, I've got it on the other computer, but we have a question about ISBNs. And so I want to answer that one. Let's see if I can get this over here. All right. If I already have an established fiction series with 4 books so far and more to come, when I originally uploaded directly to each major retailer separately, and I used the free ISBNs they provided for each one, is it possible to now assign my own universal ISBNs to the existing ebook and paperback formats without republishing them? And that is a good question. I do get this question all the time. I use the free ISBNs. It's what I could afford. It's what I heard was the right way to do it at the time. But now I know that I want my own ISBNs, which you guys know I recommend. How do I do that? How do I now publish my book with my own ISBNs? And I wish you could republish without doing a new edition, without, taking down the old books, but unfortunately you cannot. An ISBN is like a book social security number, and you can't have one person or one book with two ISBNs. It just doesn't work. It muddles the sales. It also can cause confusion in the marketplace. So what you have to do is, if you would like to now use your own ISBN, then you go to, if you're in the US, you go to Bowker, you buy your ISBNs from myidentifiers.com, not any third-party website. If you're in Canada, you request them from the government, they give them to you. And then other countries, of course, have other options, but you go, you get your own ISBNs, you have to create a new edition of your book. So that means your book can essentially be the same. I'm not saying you have to rewrite your book. I'm not saying you have to do anything crazy, but you do need to update your copyright page. That needs to now have your name as the publisher, as your publishing imprint name. That needs to be there. And then you need to update and say second edition on that copyright page, and you need your ISBNs on the copyright page. That is the minimum requirement of what you need to do for a new edition with your own ISBN. Now, if you are like, well, I had some changes to make, or I had some updates, or I saw a proofing error, now would be a great time to make those. And you can do that when doing a second edition. You can do an overhaul. You can change things. You can update. But what you cannot do is you cannot use the same copyright page. That has to be updated. And that's the minimum requirement. Your cover, if you choose to keep your same cover, you can do that. You can have the same exact cover. You just need to update the ISBN on the barcode if you have a price barcode. Or you could say, hey, it's time for a refresh and do new covers. That's one of the best ways to give your books a facelift and bring them up to date. So you can do a lot or a little. Minimum requirement, you buy your own ISBNs, you update your copyright page, and then you upload a new listing for your book with a new ISBN with yourself as the publisher versus technically what happens is if you're using a KDP free ISBN, they're the publisher on record. They are the person on record who has the rights to print that version of your book. So you would put yourself as the publisher, you would upload that interior. So if it's a print book, you would upload that interior and that cover with that ISBN everywhere. You can either do it KDP and Ingram Spark, or you can go KDP in all the different places. And then you would take the old versions down. And those, as long as the author name and the title are exactly the same, those old and new listings can merge. You should be able to keep your ratings and your rankings. Be aware that if you take an ebook down from Amazon, it disappears. So if your book is ebook only, you do not want to take your ebook down before you get your new ebook up and sync up those books and those reviews, because your reviews will disappear. And I do have authors who have had this happen. They were actually one author in particular I'm thinking about, whose books were published through I think it was Penguin. I think it was an imprint of Penguin, but it was ebooks only. So this was an ebook only imprint, and her books were put up. They were gorgeous. They had 300-400 reviews on each one. And then that imprint ended up going under. They got rid of that imprint. Her books came down and her reviews just disappeared. They were gone. So when we republished her books, because she did get her rights reverted, when we republished her books, we had to start from scratch because those books were gone. They were just gone. So that's very important when working with ebooks. Now, if you have a paperback book, we have talked about how a paperback or a hardcover or a print book never goes away. It's always listed on Amazon because someone can always sell a used or an old copy. So that never goes away. You don't have to worry about it there. But ebook specific, you do want to make sure you get the new version up and link the reviews before you take the old ebook version down. because that is heartbreaking to have to start from scratch, I promise. And then you have a second edition. So this can be done, again, very simply and easily and quickly, or you can take it as a chance to really do a whole revamp, to do new covers and all of that kind of stuff. It depends on what you intend to do specifically with that. So in the news, you guys, we're hearing more and more of authors who are suing OpenAI. So OpenAI lawsuits are not new. They've been out there for a long time. What we're seeing is now people are suing OpenAI from different states. So they want to make sure that they're not just coming from California, they're coming from different states. So we are seeing that kind of pop up. We are also seeing AI really be explored. Sorry, I'm looking over here because my other laptop. We're looking at AI really being explored in publishing. And we talked about this a little bit last week, but I think what's so interesting is I've been seeing things trend. Even in the last week or so, I'm seeing things trend where big names are saying, you know, I've been having a hard time with my next contract because my publisher, my big publisher, no names, but it's a big one. My publisher is requiring or trying to put my contract that they can use my book for AI, that they can run it through AI, that they can use it to train AI. And authors are really pushing back on that because they don't want to feed their work into an AI system, so they're no longer needed. And this is this is coming up in big contracts. It is I don't remember which publisher it was, but one of the big, I think it was Simon and Schuster, but it might have been Penguin, has openly come out and said, yeah, we're using AI for some of our marketing tasks. We're using it for, book descriptions. We're using it for different ways, and we're testing out AI and how it can make our jobs easier, how it can make us more efficient. And that makes people nervous. That makes people nervous because what no one wants is to finally get their dream of getting a big publisher and then having their book description shot out by AI and it be garbage. And so these people are saying, hey, that's not what we're doing. What we're doing is we're using AI as a starting point, or we're using a bunch of AI prompts, and we are using those AI prompts to, kind of Frankenstein a description that actually fits, but we're using it to help us. And so I think that that is kind of an ethical, in my opinion, it's an ethical way to use AI. However, it's a slope that we have to definitely be aware of, because how are people going to use it in the future? Is it going to be something that we're feeding things, publishers are feeding things through AI for editing, and then they're only having a proofreader actually read it? Are they going to really be relying more and more on that? And how's that going to affect the quality of the work? But also, how is it going to affect the artist or creatives control of their work and their rights and their copyrights? So many crazy things happening out in the AI market, and people are kind of talking. Some people are very hush hush. I will say some people are not talking about it much, and some people are talking about it a lot more and being more open about it. But just bet that every big publisher is absolutely looking at AI, not only how it's going to affect them and affect their business model, but how they can use it to stay ahead, to get ahead, to increase their bottom dollar, because it's a business and that's what they're going to do. So let's see. I used AI to generate a starter log line for my work in progress. It was okay. I had to use my soft human brain to finish it, but that's what I expected. Yeah. And there are times where I've used AI to kind of generate like ideas, or I'll say, okay, I need a social media post or something like that. And I think there are ways to use AI just to not have a blank page. I think that's very different, and I don't think that's as much of a concern as the people who are concerned about, hey, I don't want my entire manuscript plugged into AI that's then going to learn from it to edit it, because AI cannot edit. AI can help, Grammarly can help, ProWriting can help. They can all help, but they cannot edit because they don't have that human touch or emotion. And also, if we're feeding into it, so if I have 20 books and they're all being fed into AI, and that AI is learning how I write, what's keeping that AI from then writing the next book in my series, and you don't have to pay me anymore? And I think those are the concerns. And I think that it's, you know, like I said, it's kind of crazy. It's cropping up in the film industry, because now it's kind of something that models and actors are dealing with in their contracts as well, where some contracts kind of want it to be where, hey, we have your image, we have your voice, and we can use it for whatever we want in the future. And actors are like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Not so much, because number one, I don't know what you might use it before, but also that literally puts me out of work. Like, I would work for a day and then be out of work. So it's just one of those things where we're going to continue seeing it. We have seen it and we'll continue seeing it. Yeah, what's to stop it from prequels and sequels and different things? And that's it. I mean, this is what's so crazy about it, is that it, like, at first it's like, well, that's really cool, but also at the same time it's like, oh, but that's kind of scary. And I think that's what's happening, and I think it's definitely affecting creative. So I think that there are good things about AI, but there's just so much right now still that is undecided. It's still in the courts. And I know we talked about this a lot more last week, so I won't dredge all of that up, but we're continuing to see it pop up in the news. We're continuing to see it affect the creative space and publishing. And again, I don't see that going away. I just don't see how it can go away, but I am interested to see how things are put in place to protect the creatives while also moving forward and making progress as we are bound to do. I just think it's very interesting. I'll keep you guys updated. You know, I read all the things. I read all the articles and all the newsletters and everything. There's a lot of interesting stuff coming out. Speaking of interesting things, I did think it was interesting that Ricardo from Reedsy, I believe, just had an article essentially talking about the Facebook ads and how a lot of people are now saying, hey, just let Facebook run your ads. And we had talked about this 2 or 3 weeks ago, I believe, where I kind of said, yes, Facebook does amazing things with ads. And we're seeing a lot of people say, just let Facebook run your ads, do broad targeting. It does better job than we do. And I had mentioned that's true to a point. However, as a starter, if you're starting out with ads, it's safer to kind of have your own targeting. And also you have to train those algorithms on who you want to reach out to. And we had talked about this, and I thought it was very interesting that Reedsy article or from the Reedsy newsletter had come out this week, essentially saying the same thing from another industry professional who's in a lot of accounts, who sees a lot of ads and spends a lot of ad money on Facebook. Is the same thing, is that and Facebook algorithms for ads are amazing. If you run a ton of ads, if you have a lot of money to play with, yes, going with broad targeting and letting Facebook figure it out and market to your audience, or to choose who sees your ads, may be a smart bet. But if you're starting out, or if you got a really small budget, that it may not be the best option. So we kind of have to, again, work with that AI, work with the things that can be automated for us, but we need human touch. We just need it, because automated things, they're a starting place, not an ending place, in my opinion. So I just thought it was very interesting, because there's been so much coming out lately saying, you don't need to actually target your Facebook ads, just let it go free, let Facebook decide. And I've kind of been in the opposite corner a little bit, and I thought it was very interesting that someone else came out kind of saying the same thing. So I think there are different tactics, there are different marketing things, and I think there are pros and cons. And this has always been my thing, and you guys know this, that no book marketing plan should be cookie cutter. That advice is given, but really it needs to be applied to you and your books, how it'll affect you, what works for you, what's your budget, what's your goal. And it's really important that no matter what you do, that it's adjusted specifically for you. Because if you just go with a cookie cutter, if you just go, you know, this works for everyone, well, your goals are not the same as the other author's goals. Your book, your budget, they may all be different. And so we really need to take those things into consideration when deciding on how to market our books, and when you're deciding what to do, who to work with. And I think it's really important that we look at things from different sides and make sure that we have a well-rounded idea of what your goals are, what you need, and what will help you move forward most as an author and as a publisher who is marketing your own books. So I think it's always important to look at all the sides and kind of decide for yourself. But I'll get off that soapbox now. All right, you guys, I think we answered all our questions. We're at the end of the hour. I will be back next week, same time, same place, 10 a.m. I will be in my office, not in a car. So thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you guys next week, same time, same place. And I will see you guys next week. Bye, everybody.